This week on Hope City Overtime, we talk about thankfulness and how Paul suggests that we use it in combating anxiety. This is one you want to make sure you like, subscribe. If maybe you struggle with anxiety or have some friends who struggle with the weight of that, make sure you share it. Let's get it.
Welcome to Hope City Overtime, a weekly podcast where we take a little more time to dive into Sunday's message. And this week, I'm here with Pastor John and Jess. And it's a little bit different from normal because two of the three of us did not preach this message, but we heard it twice. John and Justin are we able to say what they're doing? I don't know.
They're pursuing further education. Let's just leave it like that.
Yeah.
That's a good way of saying that.
So
They're out doing that today.
they're out doing that today.
No, they're pursuing their credentialing with the AG. We're really excited about that for the both of them. So we're proud of them.
Yeah. And they both preached yesterday. Did a great job, but they're not here to talk about it today. Yep. So we're going to talk about them. Not really. But this week is a continuation of our series In Everything, which we've been talking about. Don't worry about anything. Don't be anxious about anything, but pray about everything. Now I'm like, what's the next part? Tell God what you need and thank him for what he's done. Mm-hmm. And this week is Thanksgiving week. Yeah. So when this drops will be a week out from Thanksgiving. And I know there's a whole point in here that Thanksgiving's not a holiday, but it's not just a holiday. It is a holiday. Mm-hmm. What are you most looking forward to for Thanksgiving?
Eating.
Yeah.
Isn't that everybody's answer?
No.
I love eating. Eating is great. I have to, unfortunately, make all the things that I'm eating, but still looking forward to that.
Yeah. Is
I'm looking forward.
Part?
Yes and no. I have a weird relationship with food, but I'm looking forward to the Thanksgiving decorations. Jess always does a good job.
Oh, cool. Ooh, I don't think about Thanksgiving decorations.
I don't usually do a lot of Thanksgiving decorations, but
fallish.
Yeah, so everything's already decorated for fall. But I ran across somebody's website or whatever, and they made a miniature Thanksgiving Day parade with like small balloons and stuff.
So fun.
So I'm going to attempt to make a miniature Thanksgiving Day parade because honestly, besides eating, that is my favorite.
Yeah, it's a thing in our home.
And
sure.
If you didn't know, this is the 99th year. So I already told John, get ready to be in New York for 100 because we got to make it happen.
Yeah.
So
you can do that.
Dude,
absolutely.
Do not encourage that. Do not encourage
no,
that.
everybody, it's a dream of mine to go to the Macy's parade.
Yeah. So maybe you and Jess can go.
Yeah. I want to take my niece Macy.
I don't want to do that.
We each have mugs from the Macy's parade, but we didn't get to go because, it's her name. But
the crowds are crazy. Like I've heard nightmares about sitting in line for hours and not enough restrooms.
Apparently, my dad used to have a friend who lived in New York or a client or something who lived on the parade route. And so they got to go and watch out their windows and the balloons were right at eye height and that sort of thing. But but you kind of just got to be part of the crowd sometimes. Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see if we can make it happen for 100.
Woo! Would you want to be by the star where they're performing or just see the parade?
I just want to see Snoopy go by. That's it. Classic Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade for me. Snoopy's here.
Yeah. I'm a big Snoopy fan. I don't know if you know that about her.
I don't know that, but now we all know.
Now we all know.
It's on the World Wide Web.
Yeah, I like it. I like football at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the food too, and I like the family, but we're a big football family, so it's usually outside, under blankets, watching football. Yeah. Who knows? It may be 90 degrees on Thanksgiving because I feel like we're not going to get cold.
This weather all over the place.
But who knows?
Shout out to anybody who's sniffling right now.
Yeah. You know that life.
Sinuses and seasonal allergies.
It's been crazy.
So Thanksgiving, more than just a holiday. One of the things that you talked about, one of the first points is that Thanksgiving is a mindset, not a moment. Talk a little bit about what a mindset is. You went over it kind of quickly yesterday, but what does it mean that it's a mindset?
Yeah. So a mindset is a set of beliefs, a foundation, if you would, by which all things that you do and kind of how you respond and how you live funnel through. So mindset is critical because it determines how you approach your day-to-day living, whether we're talking victories and successes or we're talking about lows and failures. All of that is viewed through mindset, and your mindset determines the way that you respond to all these things. So if at the fundamental core of kind of who you are and how you see things is this mindset, it's critical to examine what is that mindset and have you allowed the Spirit of God to do the work of transformation in order so that mindset images more a picture of who he is versus a picture of the world.
You told the story, and I think all three told them, you know if John Gonzalez told it or not, of the bricklayers.
Yeah.
And that idea that three men were laying bricks, someone came up and wanted to know, like, what are you doing? What are you building? And the first one said, he was like, what are you doing? And he said, I'm laying bricks. And the second one said, I'm building a wall. And the third one said, I'm building a cathedral. I could see the whole big picture. I'm curious, when you think of that story, which one of those bricklayers do you most just naturally in your humanity relate to?
I think I'm a cathedral guy. I think I'm always been that
What
third.
the teams would call S tier.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
I just learned it.
Yeah.
Ask your kids.
Yeah, I will later. Who officially have dubbed you the most hip pastor on the team. So
Of the people who were in the room earlier.
Pretty good. I think John might have a say in that, but
He's not here.
but I've always been. I think an optimist is probably a good way of saying that. Like I always have had the ability to kind of see the big picture, to delight in what could be. Yeah. So that's where I tend to be. I wish, like, I say that, and I think people immediately are like, "Oh, well, that's because you're a pastor." I think I've been thinking this way since I was young. I think even as a young kid, I tend to see the positive.
I almost think it would be the opposite. Like, because that's the way that God has created your mind, it like suits you to be a lead pastor and carry a vision.
Yeah. So,
are you also a visionary most naturally?
I don't think so. No, I think most naturally, I'm probably the one in the middle. I'm probably building a wall. I don't know if that goes along with kind of what I do every day, but what I do every day is put, scaffold kids building, kids education and how they learn things. So I am laying one thing at a time, building this over here, knowing where this piece is going to fit in later on. So it's not, what I feel like I'm doing sometimes is brick by brick. That's not the attitude I have. I'm seeing it as, okay, this is going to build into something bigger, but I don't maybe always see cathedral. So I think most naturally I fit in right in the middle. Like, it's a wall.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm either the first guy or the third guy. It just kind of depends on what season I'm in, because I'm very detail oriented. Like, I'm always the person who's like, that's great. How are we going to do it? Like, and I would probably be the person correcting the other bricklayers. Like, I'm glad you're excited about the cathedral, but this line of bricks is uneven. Like, I need you to focus in. But like, I think if I can catch the vision, like I can think about it, but it was almost a little convicting to hear that story yesterday and be like, yeah, where is my mindset focused on what's too close? What's just not the whole picture of who God is, of what God's doing. Clearly we're not building an actual cathedral, but we are the bricks or stones in a church, right? That's in the Bible. And one of the things that you guys hit is that mindset, it doesn't have to be fixed. Our mindset can change. How do we go about, if we recognize, like if there are other people like me who are like, oh yeah, I'm the one who doesn't see the whole vision. How do you go about changing your mindset?
Yeah, well, according to the scriptures, your mindset is determined by the behaviors you tend to follow or emulate, right? So Romans, Paul, if you copy the behaviors of the world, what you produce is death. And then if you follow the behaviors of the Spirit's leading, then what you produce is life, and life to its fullest. So really, ultimately, I would just argue that the way mindset shifts is, if you need to shift your mindset, you need to change your behaviors. That eventually your behaviors will affect your mindset. And so I think just a really quick answer to that question for so many people who are struggling, one of the things I tend to ask is, so what are you doing? Not what are you thinking, but what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then how can you change what you do to affect how you think? Yeah.
So when we're talking about Thanksgiving, and I've actually heard this in conversation about worship as well, you've kind of got this tension of that go ahead and say it. Go ahead, even if you're not feeling it, like, you know what's true. Engage in thanksgiving, engage in worship. And then you've got kind of the other camp who's like, no, if that's not really where I am right now, I don't want to say something that I don't feel.
Yeah. So if worship was about how you feel, that'd be great. But what the Thanksgiving and the concept that Paul is communicating is what's why we can worship, why we can sit in that place of Thanksgiving is because what we're worshiping, who we're worshiping, and why we're worshiping is fixed. The glory of God doesn't change because you have a bad day.
Yeah.
The strength of God doesn't change because you feel like a failure. The provision of God doesn't wane because you're feeling, you're struggling to find ways of provision. Like, he is fixed. So I would often say, yeah, I know that we live in this world that it's not authentic unless you're living according to your feeling in the moment, but those can be fleeting and, according to Scripture, deceitful, right? Like, if you're not careful, those feelings of the flesh will take you down the wrong pathway. So worship and thanksgiving reminds you who God is, and God being who he is not changed by how you feel.
Yeah.
Which is a challenge.
It is, but it's good to hear, because I do think sometimes we almost idolize authenticity, and it's like, no, you know it's true, but your heart is deceitful.
Well, I would argue it's not being authentic. Like, I think that's where people, like, authenticity is somehow being truthful to these emotions that are fleeting. That's not being authentic. That's being immature, right? Like, you don't see a toddler freaking out and saying, oh, they're just living in their most authentic life. It doesn't make sense. But John, like, they're feeling that way, aren't they? Well, yeah, but authenticity means that they're working those feelings through sound and healthy filters, navigating a place with good, healthy mindset, that ultimately that's what it means to be authentic.
Yeah.
I think we've flipped that. And I think that that's a dangerous theology. Like, it's a dangerous theology to view God through the lens of your emotions. Now, it is also dangerous to ignore your emotions. So I want to be clear, like, as a church, we're navigating through this journey of emotionally healthy spirituality. Like, we want people to understand, like, Jesus was angry. I'm listening to a book, which I don't do a lot, but I am in this season. I'm listening to Gentle and Lowly. And even this morning, listening through one of the chapters talking about the righteous anger of Jesus, and this idea that emotion of anger that we rightfully need to be cautious of. There is a place by which it's you can live in righteous anger, right? And when we're mad at things that are unrighteous and we have done all that we can do to live righteously, and those things come against us, then it's okay to work through that anger, knowing that Jesus, because he is perfect, he too is angry at injustice. We know that biblically. So I think ultimately to live in this place where we're just ignoring our emotions, I think, is unhealthy, but to be led by them is also unhealthy.
Yeah.
So there's that place in the middle where we're, and I don't even like saying in the middle, but there's this place where we've learned how to live and understand what we're feeling and subject them all to the person and the character that Jesus has for us, right? Like, and how do we navigate in the fullness of that?
Yeah. One of the things that came up in the lobby a little bit after both services.
I love lobby talk.
I love lobby talk too. Is navigating this tension of, kind of like you were talking about, there are things going on in the world around us that should make us weep and sad. And there are things that should make us righteously angry. And yet there's also still a place for Thanksgiving in the middle of all of that. How do you navigate that tension of knowing that there are some things that are just broken? Like, we live in a broken world, but also choosing gratitude while not ignoring everything else.
I know it sounds like I'm being repetitious here, and I don't mean it to be. I don't think there's a tension here. And why I mean there's not a tension here is because Thanksgiving and worship is a product of a God that doesn't change. So regardless what's happening in the world around me, I can still be thankful, right? Like, so it doesn't mean that I don't feel what's happening around me, and I can totally be upset with what's happening around me, paying attention to what's happening in my community, seeing some of the hurt that's happening there. I can absolutely wake up in the morning and spend time in my prayer life, devoting time and focusing time around this injustice that seems to be happening to us around us, regardless what season that is. Like it's totally okay to walk and feel those things, but it doesn't diminish the glory of God. Those two things are not working in tension with each other and shouldn't work in tension with each other. But I understand why sometimes it does.
Yeah. I think that's where it helps to know Paul's situation when he wrote these words, because it is so easy to hear them and be like, oh, that's nice. I think your phrase was, that's cute.
Yeah.
And then realize, like, no, Paul's writing this from prison and he's shackled. Like, at the time, they weren't bringing them food. Like, he had to rely on people from the church to come and bring him food to eat every day. And he's still saying, be thankful. I have the words in front of me somewhere, but I'm still like not getting them all exactly right. But basically he's saying, thank God for what he's done. And so then we did a lab, which is fun to do a lab in church. And you had everyone take time. And I know Justin did too. Did you do this in second service at West? You didn't do a lab. So if you were at second service at West, now you know that you get a chance to do a lab right now, where it was literally like, we're going to stop, give you a little time, and you need to pull out a journal, pull out your note on your phone, and write 3 things that you're thankful for. And then you went a step further than Justin had, and we're like, and now we're going to all say them out loud, which went so well.
It really did.
The room was just
in both services for me. It really did go well. I was a little taken back by it.
Yeah. So pop quiz. What are you thankful for?
Oh, looking at me first.
Yeah.
Oh,
you get to start the lab.
Sure. I mean, for me, I always start at like the very beginning. Like, thank you for waking me up this morning, for breath, for provision, for protection. But also just thank you for good friends, and thank you for your word, and thank you for even silly things that seem so small, but are just so unique to each one of our lives. Each one of us have situations that maybe we're navigating, but even in those situations, just seeing what God is doing and where he's working. And even though maybe we don't have the answers or things haven't come to fruition, thank you that I know that you're working behind the scenes and things in ways that I can't see or appreciate. So yeah, I put a lot of things in my little space there.
I did too. I did more than 3. Teacher's pet.
Gold star.
Thanks. What about you?
I didn't put anything down because I was preaching it.
preaching?
It's so funny.
But right now, this is your lab.
Yeah, whenever I think thankfulness, I kind of start with, I'm a people person. That's how I think. I don't normally think things. I think people. So of course I start, usually my time of Thanksgiving starts with my relationship with him. And I get overwhelmed every time I have this thought, because like, how are you not thankful for a God who, first of all, like, listens when I say thank you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how many times have you been in a place where even sharing gratitude for the people who are in authority of you, you're bothering them, you're wasting their time, and yet the creator of the universe is like, no, I want to spend time in a moment, and if you're willing to offer thanksgiving in exchange, there's that peace that guards your heart and mind. Like, so there's so much about my relationship with God I'm thankful, and then of course my wife, my kids, my family. My prayer time gets sucked up pretty quick in gratitude, and then immediately the first, chunk of my prayer time is always starting with my wife, and then going to my boys, and then walking through my parents and my brother and my sisters and their families, and then my nieces and nephews. And I often, when people are like, I don't have enough to pray for, I always kind of focus them on, no, you don't have enough people to pray for. If you don't have enough to pray for, it's because you don't have enough people. You can fill your prayer life just with petitioning God's throne for people. But specifically in Thanksgiving, I would say that that's kind of my list. I would start with my relationship with Jesus, my wife, and then, of course, my boys.
Yeah, I love that. I think I went 2 different directions yesterday, but I often start with God's presence. Like, kind of like you guys have both said, like, I'm thankful that you're with me, that you care, and that you want me to know you. And so I just love scripture. So that's right up there. Like, thank you for the Bible. Thank you for letting me live in a time where it's easy to look up what's going on in the Bible. Like, this is going to sound so nuts. And I even told my launch team not to do this as a practice every time. But the other day I asked ChatGPT a question because I was reading through scripture with some girls in my neighborhood, and I didn't understand, like, someone had asked this question and the other person got really mad. And I was like, this question seems like totally straightforward. So I just went to ChatGPT and was like, why did so-and-so get mad when they asked? And it was like, well, actually, this question implies that leadership was being sought and like knew all this cultural background. So it's like, thank you that I live in a time where I have access to that. And don't use ChatGPT for all your theology questions, but for context, like to understand what's going on in a story, like culturally that you might not get, it's been super helpful. And then as silly as it might sound, I got a new car this year. And after years of driving a car that was not safe, like, I mean, it was fine. I never got in trouble, but every time I got in it, I was like, is this going to be the time that it just stops driving on the highway? Like, is this going to be the time that I get in an accident? And now I'm like, I'm not stressed out when I get in the car. Like, not that I was stressed every time, but it factored in more. So I'm just still like, thank you, God, for my car. Thank you that it's comfy and safe and gets me where I need to go. I know that's so silly,
No,
but I'm super, super grateful. And my trade-in was $200. So when it comes to changing our mindset for Thanksgiving and changing our behavior to do that, have you just in different seasons of life or even right now had practices to make gratitude or Thanksgiving part of your regular rhythm? I mean, I know you said your prayer often starts that way. Was it always that way, or did you have to kind of intentionally shape it?
You know, it's funny. Years ago, my mom sat me down one time and we had a conversation about prayer. I mean, I was young, 12, 13 years old maybe. And it was so forming in me because she's, it wasn't anything crazy deep or anything. Jesus taught the disciples to pray, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy name, your kingdom come, your will be done." And so she walked through the whole deal and defined what prayer should look like. Like, hey, this is a model of prayer. And she didn't use those that phrasing, but that's really kind of what she taught me. And if you notice in that prayer, it starts with this moment of worship and thanksgiving, right? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. It's a statement of worship. Like, I'm thankful for you. Like, you're holy. Like, it's just a great moment. And so since that point, I have always kind of tried to spend time in prayer, even from a practical place. It's funny because it is seeped into different areas of my life, even when talking with people that I know that the conversation is going to be hard or difficult. I might start with moments of encouragement because I feel like that's a great way to approach any circumstance and situation. So specifically in my prayer life, it's always kind of been a part of the process is, hey, before I get into all the things I need, I just need you to know that I'm thankful for you and walk through a little bit of Thanksgiving that way. So that's kind of some of my practice now.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. So I like to write things down when things like stick out for me, or if I'm having a particularly tough moment. I probably don't journal as much as I used to when I was younger. I think that's just a time thing. But I do try to take note of when something has happened and how I want to remember it, or if I want to jot down the scriptures that came to mind or the story that came to mind. And so I have, at points in my life, gone back to earlier journals to just kind of read through. Man, I thought that was a tough situation. I know the Lord worked through that. Let me go remind myself. Let me go see what scriptures I was reading. What was I praying for? At one point, when the boys were much smaller, I used to keep a little jar. And so I would jot something down on a scrap paper and just throw it in a little jar.
That's exactly what I do now.
So I've got 2 of those, one with funny things they've said, and another with either scripture.
That's so funny. I have a jar of funny things you're pointing now.
Hilarious. Amazing.
It's not too many things in that jar, actually. I just burned my 15-year-olds.
They happen to be in the room right now behind the camera.
But with that said,
Got him.
So just jotting stuff down. So for me, it works to write it down, and that has gone, because technology, that has gone from sometimes writing it down in a journal to just keeping a long note. So I do have a note in my app and my phone, and I'll just get on there and just write something down real quick. But just to keep it in front of me.
Yeah.
So I like to write things down to keep it in front of me.
My grandma, when I was little, probably 8, she gave me a gratitude journal, and she had one that was just like it. And it was one of those, every night write down 5 things that you're thankful for. And it was something about she was doing it too. And I knew anytime I saw her, I would bring mine and we would go through and see some of the things that we were thankful for. That really helped cultivate that habit in me. And it wasn't necessarily a prayer journal, but she loved the Lord and so did I. So like we knew that it was gratefulness to him, but the journal itself was probably overpriced because it said gratitude and had 5 blanks for every day. But I loved that. And then kind of, if you watched last week, we got into how I'm just not a journaler. Like, but I have a mason jar, and every year I'll be like grateful 2025. And as the year goes on, every single time, maybe not every single time, but I try to really notice those moments, be thankful, reflect on them at the end of the day, write it. I like tear a piece of an index card off. And then the last week of the year, I'll pull them all out again and go through them with the Lord and just be like, this is your faithfulness evident right here. Yeah. And then I just like clip them together and they're all in a baggie. Yeah. Super, super holy baggie.
Love that.
Yeah. But sometimes it does take that practice of, it's not going to happen naturally. Like you're not just going to slip into a mindset of Thanksgiving if you didn't have the gift of having people in your life when you were young and that kind of was, your brain was being developed. But there are practices you can do. There are apps now. I get ads for them all the time. They're like, gratitude with your friends. Everyone downloads the app and you can see what everyone's thankful for that day. Or like,
I think too, just being, for myself, just being more purposeful and being thankful verbally. So like if I've been praying for something, whether it's a quick, short, like, dear Lord, I need you to take control of this, or like, take care of this thing. Thanking the Lord, not just then for the answer, but when the answer actually comes through, like being purposeful to spend time to say thank you. And I think that's one of the things I really appreciate about how we have prayer requests and praise reports, because it's easy to scroll by the praise reports and just be like, oh, that's great, and not at all spend time thanking Jesus for answering those prayers that we've been praying for at the prayer team.
Well, and this isn't a knock on anyone, how many prayer requests do we get? And how many praise reports? Like we get prayer requests all the time, which keep sending them. Like it is an honor to pray for you. But I get so excited because it's pretty rare that we actually get a praise report that's following up. Like, hey, I asked you to pray about this. Here's where this is going. Or even I didn't ask you to pray about this, but praise the Lord with me that I got this job or whatever it is. Yeah.
And that encourages us.
Yes.
Because we are praying. The prayer team, pastoral team and praying, they're praying over all the things. And sometimes we don't know what happens. It's like, hey, if you got an answer, please tell us. Write that praise report.
How many times I'll follow up with somebody like, hey, we've been praying for that surgery. How'd it go? And they're like, what? How'd you submitted a prayer request? That's how it works. And we don't follow up with everybody like that, but there has been moments where I think it's funny.
Yeah. So cultivate that habit to build that mindset. The next point of the message was Thanksgiving is choosing faith over fear. And you made this really interesting statement, trust is the antithesis of anxiety. It makes sense when you think about it, but it's not what I would pick out. Like, how is trust the antithesis of anxiety?
We think that maybe it would be calm, but the truth is or rest even, but the truth is you don't find rest and calm until you find a place or a person that you can trust. Right. So the reason anxiety is so tough for people is because the voices don't stop. It speeds everything up. Even the things that are happening in your brain. What's required is a place or a person, specifically in this passage. I think Paul would argue that person is Jesus, that you can trust fully, knowing that he will bring peace despite the circumstance. And I know you're preaching on it this week, so I'm not stepping too far into that. But even his experience in the boat,
that's just for the East pop-up, so that won't even be.
But there's a moment where Jesus is in the boat with his disciples, and they're panicked because of the nature of a storm. I think sometimes we read that a little bit too flippantly. Remember, some of these men were actually fishermen and spent their whole life on boats, fishing for fish. And so Jesus is in that moment, and the storms don't even wake him up.
Yeah.
Right? It's because he understood that where he is safe. Where he is, there's rest. You can trust in what he said. And he said, we're going to the other side. So regardless the size of the storm, we can trust in the one who has sent us to the other side. And so they wake him up in their panic. And really he has a moment of rebuke, and then he turns around and he looks at the waves. He's like, we're done. Calm down. And they all do. And what's funny is even then, they don't move to trust. They move to fear. Because their verbiage is, who is this man that even the seas and the winds obey him? They're terrified. And even then, it takes a little while to understand that he is his power, his might, his glory, his love, his grace. All of those things make for a place and a person that we can rest in. And I think ultimately that's what we need in seasons of anxiety, is to find the one that we can trust in.
Yeah, I love that story. And by the time this podcast actually drops,
it'll be done.
I'll have already preached it. And sorry if you didn't make it to the East Pop-Up last night. But the detail in that story that Jesus was asleep on a cushion.
Yeah.
Like, the Bible is just so frustrating sometimes in that we don't get details that we want. And so then whenever there is one, I'm like, this is here for a reason. It's like the lamp in the Shunammite woman story that, you know, when you preached that a little while ago and you're like, why is this here? We got to look at this detail.
We have her furniture list.
The cushion is just that intentionality that he didn't just fall asleep because he was exhausted. He chose to go to sleep on a cushion, like everything's going to be fine. And that peace is available to us, that in the middle of the storm, we could be not just like blinking when we can from exhaustion, but like sleeping soundly at rest because we know who's in control of it all. Speaking of in control of it all, let's talk about driving. We got John's version of what it's like to ride in the car.
We only have John's version.
Yeah, but today we have Jess here.
That should be a new segment on our podcast going forward. If John shares the story, we should have a little.
Oh my gosh, I'm here for it.
I think we all.
Hey, by
are.
the way, here's Jess's version of the story.
I think we all are here for it.
Yeah, I love it. Jess's version.
Yes. So John was talking about
driving.
Okay.
Yeah, and he, I forget. I'm like, oh yeah, you didn't hear John's sermon yesterday. So the idea was that when he drives, you can be a vocal passenger. And so he's a better passenger, he says. So the arrangement is that you drive because he'll be relaxed and.
Yes.
Am I doing you justice?
Oh, no, it's perfect.
Yeah, we decided.
He also said it was your birthday last week.
It was.
And to tell you that that's what he had talked about and not.
Yeah. So, yes, John and I decided very early on in our marriage that if this thing was going to work, I had to be the driver and he had to be in the passenger seat. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm that bad of a passenger. As I was mentioning to Ashley earlier during the MapQuest days, I was very requested because I'm very good with directions.
I was just saying,
I think
you were a passenger in my car the other day, but
I think
fine.
what it is.
You stopped me from taking a wrong turn, so I needed you to speak up.
Was she sassy when she did it?
No.
Okay.
I think what it is that John and I just have different approaches to things, and
To be
his
fair, I didn't
approach-
mention that.
His
true.
approach is a little more laid back than my approach. I'm always searching in a car. I'm searching for efficiency.
Yeah. And I literally said, when I'm driving, it may not be the most efficient way, but we're going to have a good time.
Right.
I thought about that this morning when I ended up in Noda on my way to work, which is so far out of the way. But I was like, I want to go by the long room
That's
and
right.
pray.
That's
And then
right.
I was like, I'm just going to keep going down
That's
Hawthorne.
right. Come on, somebody.
And then when I came back around, I was like, that's such a pretty view of the city. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've worked with John Hernandez for too long.
Way too long.
It's not so much that I don't appreciate the scenic route. It's, I think there's an attentiveness factor. You know, I just sometimes question John's attentiveness in the moment that he's driving versus mine. So I get a little bit more like, why are you so close? Or why did you choose this way instead of that way? Or, yeah, whereas for me, it's like it's on automatic. So I'm just going to do what I've been doing.
I think she's validating my story because I really think I did a good job of communicating all sides of it.
Well, yeah, I'd hope he didn't get up there and say something mean about me.
No.
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, I mean, he also, like, when he is in the passenger seat, he's not at all paying attention to what's happening. He just
you
is
got
in a
it.
different
I trust
world.
you.
So, the implication is that I do not trust you.
I mean, the question he may have asked at the end of the story is, are you a horrible passenger?
I don't know that I'm horrible, but yeah.
So there's no way I wasn't going to go there with Jess on the podcast.
I don't think there's a win here.
No, but there is a good illustration, and that's the point of these stories.
So talk about why you use this as an illustration.
Because I do think when it comes to our relationship with the Lord, often we find ourselves in places where we're not good passengers, right? As silly as it sounds, my wife is also a phenomenal driver. It allows me to work while we're driving. So there's a lot of blessings to that.
You do come to the best full stop at a stop sign of anyone I know.
Yeah. And she's actually pretty good at that. I'm not. You backseat. My boys get whiplash constantly. But I say that to say, like, when it comes to our relationship with the Lord, why my wife probably struggles a little bit in trust when it comes to my driving is she said it. I'm distracted. I don't always have all the right information. My motives may be different than her. She's looking for efficiency. I'm looking for other things. There are times where that actually is a good deal. It's funny because I say that she drives when we're here. But when we're international, we're in a place that's foreign. I normally drive. Like we just did a trip to Spain several years ago. And in that trip, we drove a car 3 or 4 days out of the time we were there. And I was the one driving, and that was our arrangement. And specifically because although we had like appointments we were trying to get to, like there was plenty of times where I'm like, you see that castle over there? There's no way I'm going to drive by a castle and not stop. And so there was times where I'm almost being creative in my route and my journey. So I say that to say, the thing with our relationship with the Lord is often we find ourselves as He's leading, as He's guiding. If we're not careful, the reason Jess doesn't trust me and all that is because there are some things that I, as a human, can fail at. He doesn't fail. So a bad passenger isn't fully trusting in the direction that He's leading us. A bad passenger isn't always trusting in the route that he chose. And we find ourselves often reaching over and grabbing the wheel when we hit a little bit of a bump, or we think it should be in another lane, or we think we should have took an exit.
Doing the air brake.
Or doing the air brake.
Every parent of a teenager knows what I'm talking about.
Or grabbing a hold of grabbing a hold of stuff. Yeah. We find ourselves in that place where we live in anxiety. It's funny because I trust Jess so implicitly that I will work. I fall asleep. I can focus on other things.
I do all the long haul driving. So, if we're going to Florida or something.
But if I'm in a car with somebody else, I can't because that trust isn't there. So again, when it comes to your relationship with the Lord, which was the point, we have to learn how to be good passengers, to trust in the one who's steering the ship. That even in our anxiety, we need to learn how to slow down some of that thought. Why? Because we trust in the one who's in control, and thankfulness reminds us why we trust.
This it's so funny because I hate the phrase and the song, Jesus, take the wheel. Because I'm just like, he should already have the wheel.
Yeah.
He's the one driving.
Absolutely. And P.S., I think even theologically, I would argue, you can't grab the wheel.
Yeah.
Like, we serve a God who's ultimately
You're just holding that bar really, really tight.
It's the golfer screaming at the golf ball. It's the bowler screaming at the bowling ball in an attempt to control something that they can't control. Like, this isn't that. There is no take the wheel. He runs things, and when your trust is in Him, all things work together for those who love. If your trust is not in Him, then all things are not going to work together for those who. So ultimately, that's why I hate that song too.
Good. Glad we agree. I hope you hate the song too. It's going to be really awkward.
I'm in agreement. Yay for us.
Perfect.
Motion carried. We all hate the song.
This podcast not brought to you by
Carrie Underwood. I think it was her.
Jesus already got the wheel.
The phrase was already here, but I think this is easy to talk about when we're like laughing about being in the car with someone, but there is something so powerful when you are in that moment and He's in control and you feel like you're going the wrong way, or you see a cliff at the end of that road and you're just like, none of this makes sense. Like, what are we doing here? This is not the way that I would go. This is not what I thought would happen. This is bumpier than I thought, and I'm feeling a little car sick. To still choose to be thankful. What words of encouragement do you have for someone who's in that spot right now?
So what I do when I'm in my car and I don't trust the GPS, which is not often, but if I don't trust the GPS, I scale out and I see the whole course. Then I remind myself, it's very few times my GPS has actually failed me, right? Other people have, but I think ultimately reminding ourselves who God is and what are the unchangeable qualities of God remind us that we can trust in the bumps. And I think really from a practical place, that's the key, is to consider where he's brought you from, where you know he's bringing you to, what he said last, how he's shown himself faithful. And again, all of those qualities that don't change about the person of God reminds us that we can trust in the middle of the journey. I think sometimes the thought is, well, if you look around long enough, there'll be some things in the journey that'll calm you down. That's just not true. There's sometimes where it's just going to be dark and it's going to be bumpy. And P.S., the reason the disciples were in the middle of that storm was because Jesus told them to cross we were going to the other side. So they were going to cross the river.
And spoiler alert, since you will be there tomorrow, you know the other side was somewhere where they never went.
Yeah.
They called it the kingdom of darkness.
Yep.
So already
That trepidation.
we're not going in the direction I want to. And then you think, well, it'll probably be smooth sailing because we're following Jesus somewhere hard. And it's like, nope, here's a giant storm. But he's still trustworthy in the middle of it.
He is. So I think from a practical place, I think, well, what I know about the scripture is that Thanksgiving unlocks the ability to trust because it resets your mind. You stop looking at the waves and you remember the one who actually placed you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's just getting back to the basics of who he is and acknowledging those things out loud. So even in the darkness, he's still Lord. Even in the darkness, his presence is still with me. Even in the darkness, he's still working all things together for my good. So it's reminding myself of not just the attributes of God, but those scriptures and those times when he has. And so, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging exactly where you are and exactly what you're feeling, but subjecting all of that to who he is and what you know of him to be true. And so sometimes it's just that. Sometimes you're crawling through the darkness, groping around to find where's the wall, where's the floor, where's the this. But even in all of that, he's right there.
Yeah.
And I always have to remind myself as well, nothing is a surprise to him.
No.
I don't know what's on the other side, but he's already there.
Yeah.
So he's not caught off guard. He's not taken aback. I might be feeling some type of way about it. I will be surprised. I don't know what's on the other end. He's already there. So there's nothing that's going to throw him off, throw his plan off. He's got it.
Yeah. One of the things that's just kind of hitting me as we're talking is how important it is to know the promises of God, to know God first, but then to know what his word says, to know what he promises, because I think that's where it can feel really, really scary when you're not sure what's going on, when you don't have those verses to cling to, those promises to cling to. We were actually talking because there's someone in the church family walking through just a really difficult season who doesn't even have the capacity to full on read scripture, but was I just want some scripture cards. So I have these verses so I can have them to hold on to when I'm fighting anxiety, when I'm fighting worry and fear. Where would you suggest someone start if they're recognizing I don't have those verses to spout off like you just did of I'm holding on to this. I know he works all things for the good.
Well, I don't think it should end here, but I do think that it's a good place to start. If you've been in church at any time, there's worship music that kind of communicates the goodness of God, right? I'm amazed that if you've been in church, even as a kid, that even some of those nursery rhymes, even some of those songs that you learn in Kids World,
some of the kids ones church, are better when it comes to learning actual scripture.
Yeah, they're just clear. I think that's a place. So musically, that's a place that you can start. But really, just dive into your word. I also I'm such a huge fan of community that sometimes it seems like the answer to everything, but it does come to a point where good friends remind you of what you should be grateful for and the promises that the Lord has laid out for you. I don't know if the problem is I don't know what to be thankful for. I think the problem is more I don't know how to be thankful.
Explain that.
if you ask the average person, hey, there's got to be something in your life you're thankful for, they're going to lay out 6, 7 things. Like, I don't think that that's the challenge. I think the problem is the how to it. And so I'm becoming more and more of a believer that specifically when dealing with anxiety and deep levels of the weight of stress and dark seasons, there's something powerful about saying it, not just thinking it, not just writing it down, but actually saying it, almost like your mouth is reminding your ears, which are reminding your mind. It just takes it and it makes it real and physical. I don't know how else to say that. The scripture is clear that there's power in the tongue, right? There's the power of life and death in the tongue. And so when we spend time saying, I'm going to choose to be thankful, I think the average person could come up with 6 reasons to be thankful. I just don't know what they need to do with it. The way that I phrase it in the message was, it's like a gift that you haven't given over, right? Like a gift that you bought, wrapped, put on a shelf, and then forgot to give it to the person. And then 6 months later, the gift doesn't even really make sense. Maybe it doesn't fit anymore. Whereas Thanksgiving is the ability to not just think about these things, but to wrap it and then present it to the Lord as a gift. Like, here's my gift. And in return for that gift, he guards your peace, peace of mind and heart. So I think that that's critical. It's not just the what to be thankful for, but it's the how to be thankful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's so funny. I need to finish thank you notes is what you just said actually made start going through my head. But when you were sharing that story yesterday, what it also made me think about is like, how many times have you prepared a gift for someone that you were so excited to give them, wrapped it, gave it to them, and it was like, oh, thanks. And then they moved on, or, like I'm not going there, but that's,
Are we sharing another story?
if you want to, but I think sometimes we almost think it's too small to thank God for this little thing. Like, I only want to thank him for these huge things. And yet he has taken the time to give us every blessing that we have. And so I know that wasn't your point there, but I was literally like, why wouldn't I thank God for everything? Because he's gone to the point of wrapping it, so to speak. Every time I tell this story, it sounds so silly and it was so powerful to me. But last week or maybe the week before, there's this tree that I love that is right outside the window that my desk is below in my office at home. And it's like, I can also see the dumpster and the parking lot. Like, it's not like I look out on this picturesque scene, but there is this tree. I don't even know what kind it is. And in the spring, it's beautiful. In the fall, the leaves are golden and they're just amazing. And I'll just walking home and be like, thank you out loud to God for the tree. And I remember just kind of praying about it and being like, God, thank you so much that you would choose to put me in a house near where this tree is. And clear as day in my spirit, it was, who said I didn't put the tree there for you? Like, you're not the one that happened along where the tree is. I put this tree here because I knew you would be here to enjoy it. I know that sounds like so small,
I understand it though.
But like, how many times is he doing things like that for us that we don't even see, much less thank him for?
Right. And there's so many things that we don't see that we don't thank God for. There's so many times where something was prevented or something didn't happen and we don't even know the behind the scenes of what that is. I don't think it's silly at all. I don't think it's silly to thank God for every and anything, no matter the size that you think it is. But I know, like, one of the things that I do, every time I drive to church, I pray that we'll get there safely, that we will arrive at just the right time. And every time I get to church, I thank him for doing that, because we don't see all the inner workings and all the things that are going on every day that we have to be thankful or grateful for. And so, I think thank him anytime. It's also like one of those things where we don't do that verbally, even with people.
Yeah.
And we're not sharing that enough. And it's like, no, share it right then. Thank you for this. Or I think you look great today. Or, man, have I told you how much you've blessed me? Yesterday, we got a pastor's appreciation card. And it was so cute. It was so unique. It was handmade. And so when I saw the person who made it, I was like, thank you so much for that card. I can't believe you went through all the trouble of making it. And it was just so cute. And it made me smile. And just sharing that little bit, like she was beaming when she walked away. And she said, thank you. I didn't know if anyone noticed. And I was like, well, I noticed. And it's adorable. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah. So I think one of the passages that messed me up the most in this study is the Ephesians 5:4 one. So it's obscene stories, foolish talk, and coarse jokes. These are not for you. Instead, let there be thankfulness to God. Just this idea that when it comes to our language should be filled with thanksgiving. Thankful to God for all that he's done. Thankful to God for what others have done. Thankful to God in everything shouldn't just be moments. It should be a part of what directs and filters how we talk to one another, how we talk in conversations with those who are not, believers. Like even to your neighbors, that thankfulness should be a part of your conversation. And not that
One was once walking her dog when I thanked God out loud for the tree, and it got real confusing real fast. I was like, I wasn't talking to you.
But even when talking to non-believers, I think some of the conversation, we somehow think that our criticism is going to lead them closer to Christ, right? When they voice some of their concerns about the church or concerned about Christianity or even their concerns about like their history with the church, we're quick to echo some of that, thinking that somehow by repeating their language, we're going to move them closer to the cross. I would just argue that the language of the believers should be thankfulness.
Yeah.
Right. So I can't tell you how many times I've shut down conversations, even with non-believers, when they begin their rants towards some of the criticism of the church, and try my hardest to steer it back to, you have no idea how thankful I am for the church. Like, how could you be thankful for an institution? Because you see institution, I see people. I see people. I can name family after family of people who've encouraged me that I am thankful for God for, because of their encouragement and the way that they live their lives. It's made us better. I was talking to someone on the phone recently, and I had a moment where I was like, I just need to thank you. Not just because of what you bring to our community and the way that you serve our church. My boys are better because of your time navigating life with our youth ministry, right? Like that thankfulness should not be jarring to people, specifically to those that we come into contact with, because that should be our language. Like it shouldn't be weird for us to express a thankful and a heart full of gratitude, because again, we're so accustomed to that language. So I think it's important to consider our tongue should be laced with thankfulness.
Well, and the best way that you learn language is by speaking it.
Yeah,
Yes.
Come on, somebody.
So you've got to speak it. If you want to get better at it, you've got to speak it. And I tell my kids, I teach Spanish in high school, and tell my kids all the time, like, yeah, it's great for you to hear it, and it's great for you to see it, but if you never open your mouth, you'll never speak it.
Full immersion. Back to community,
back in.
right? Back to community, the right community with thankful people. You'll be amazed how quickly you pick it up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And then you don't even notice. It becomes a habit, and it's just
It just comes out
part
of
of who
you.
you are. Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny because, again, my whole life growing up in the Spanish church, it was not weird for people to be randomly, I don't know if you experienced this with your grandmother, but randomly thanking God for random stuff. And out loud, thank you, Jesus. My grandmother, there were seasons where my grandmother, in the middle of pain, my Aunt Lydia, I'd walk into the house and she's struggling in her pain. And what's coming out is not the pain. There's not a complaint. What's coming out is worship. You are the sovereign God. I glorify you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus. And every bone in her body, every joint is screaming, and still her choice is thankfulness. That's what it means to navigate that language, and just refusing to sit in the middle of anxiety and to be imprisoned to what's around you. There's that choice to be thankful, to break free of that. And I think that's powerful.
It reminds me of the verse that I'm going to butcher. The thing about what's foolish in the eyes of the world is wisdom in the eyes of the Lord.
Yeah.
Because it does all, I think there is this like worldly temptation that if you're in the middle of a tough season and you're not actively focused on everything that's wrong and how you can make it right or what needs to be made right, and you're choosing thankfulness, like it does almost seem foolish. And yet that's that release that lets us live in this place of peace and trust.
Yeah, and I would just argue once again, and I don't mean to harp on it, but this nonsense of living in a place where we have to be authentic to our feelings. Again, please hear me when I say this with the right heart and the right attitude. It smells like the pit of hell. It really does. It does. Like the feelings that, again, not that we're calling people to ignore your feelings. I'm not saying that at all, but I am saying to be led by them is like specifically in Pauline writings, totally anti what he's communicating, right? The idea of the flesh, the struggle of the flesh, copying the behaviors and the patterns of the world, it only produces death. And unfortunately, I don't know how, but in 2025, there's like a gospel that's been developed, that's been stitched together with this lie from hell. And I'm finding more and more people are like, no, I'm not going to believe the promises of God because that's not how I feel. I need to be authentic to my feelings. And that's what it means to be a believer. And it's just nonsense. It's nonsense, and it's hurting people. It really is. This desire, this choice to choose to bring everything to the foot of the Lord through prayer, petition, and thankfulness, this choice is what unlocks peace. And by the way, it's a peace that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
So just at the end of the day, when being authentic, it doesn't make it just seems like you're trying to logically solve a problem where what you need is a peace that defies logic. But I could be here all day.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. And some of that's where we're going this week.
Yeah.
Cutting room floor. Anything that didn't make this conversation or didn't make the sermon about thankfulness that you want to make sure we talk about?
I'm trying to think. Can I look at my notes real quick? Can I choose?
Sure.
Yeah, I can go first.
Yeah.
I wish we spent a little more time. I say that every week, and it sounds like we're being incomplete. I don't mean that. Like, I'm grateful for what it was. I think the sermon was exactly what it needed to be. There is a part of this that we talk quite a bit about the mechanics of thankfulness. I do think we could probably spend a ton more time on kind of the dynamic of what it means to live thankfully, right? Like, what does that actually look like in your everyday? How thankfulness in a person's countenance and character changes them and others. I had a teacher named Miss Rainbow. I know it's a crazy name. Miss Rainbow was a powerful influence in my life because in a season when I was very angry, my middle school, the beginning of my middle school journey was not good. Miss Rainbow made a huge difference, and it was all about her countenance. She was thankful to see me when everybody else dreaded seeing me. And that shift alone, I think, unlocks for the believer a superpower, specifically in 2025. How many conversations have you had this week where the verbiage used, the stories communicated, the language being used invoked fear, invoked worry, invoked uncertainty? How many times has your response invoked security and trust and love and peace? And I promise you, it's because your response wasn't thankful. Like there was no lacing of thankfulness in that conversation. And I think ultimately, even when people talk about the city, it drives me nuts. I love Charlotte. You guys know that of me. It's been a passion of mine. The Lord's kind of wired that into me over the last decade or so. If I hear one more person tell me how bad it is in Charlotte, I am thankful for our city. Like, we live in a growing, thriving community that has its issues, but the receptivity to the gospel is higher than it's ever been. We have the world coming. We don't have. I'm all about world missions and partnering with global partners all over the world. I want to do that with every day of my life. Like, let's do that. Amen. But the world's coming to Charlotte.
Yeah.
We have so many different opportunities to speak into that. And what's come with that is just this beautiful blend of different cultures and different tastes and different lifestyles that we get a chance to glean from, some rich history that we get to glean from. If you're so concerned and constantly worried and anxious about all that's happening around us and can't be thankful for where God's put you, I just think it's jacking up our language. And now what's our language? Fear and criticism. I'm just tired of it. Can we be thankful for where God's calling us to be? I think it's a good place. I think there's some good people. I think, we have the right message.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I'm a nerd. I do think, a little, I love language. And so I teach language, and so I understand some of the mechanics in language. but I also taught elementary school for a long time. And so I have been on the early process of all the things that have to happen in your brain to be ready to do something like read. And so it just, the way that our brains are created, it's so funny because I think we separate sometimes intellect from like our physical body. And there's so much in how what we think affects us physically and how what we speak affects us physically. And so when you brought up, the power of the tongue, and when we talked about a little bit of language, it's just to be able to read more about that, to learn more about that. There are so many things in us wired that are physically wired to create responses in our body. And so, the Lord spoke creation into existence. Like there is literal power in the words that we say. And it's not to deny what's happening, and it's not to deny what you're feeling, and it's not to deny the gravity of your situation, how big your mountain is. But it's understanding that empowered with his word and knowing who he is, you can speak to those things and not just change those situations, because God is working in his word. Like it says his word doesn't return void. So saying those things out loud creates something. It says something. It brings power, not because of you, but because of it's his word. They're his words. But doing that changes you physically. It changes your response. It changes your outlook. When you become a person of thankfulness and gratitude, it changes how you see things.
Come on.
It really does.
Yeah.
And so I think the second thing would be who you're surrounding yourself with and what you're allowing to get into your brain and mind. And that is, things like social media and things like news reports and things. It's not to deny the reality of what is happening around us, but to understand that even that has to be subject to him and subject to its place. And, some of those old adages that your parents said to you growing up are true. You do become who you're surrounded with. And so if you are surrounding yourself with people who are only speaking to the negative, who are not claiming the word, I know that I have not 100 friends, but I have one or two really good friends. I know that these women are speaking powerful prayer over my life. That changes things, not just in the heavenlies, in the spiritual realm, but it changes the way that I can respond to something because I know that I'm being supported and uplifted. So there's just something powerful about having community that is going to uplift, that is going to speak scripture over you, that's going to pray for you, that's going to point you to those things that God is doing and that he is working in.
Come on.
Instead of sitting with you, not even sitting with you in the darkness, because I do have appreciation for people who've sat with me and just sat in dark places. So I'm not saying that, but not people who contribute to it, right? There was a difference in Job's friends.
Come on.
When you talk about Job, there were friends who were like, yeah, you should give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even his wife, curse God and die.
Even his wife, curse God and die. These are not the people you want in your corner, right? But to have a friend that will sit with you, and even if they're just murmuring quietly their prayers, knowing that they are supporting you. So, man, community matters so much, but just language. What are you letting out of your mouth?
Come on.
Because there is power, and it's not on you.
Yeah.
It's his words, and he's going to honor his word.
I think I know I keep harping on this, but this idea of David was never afraid to define the giant. Never. Like not just Goliath, but go look. He defines the iniquity of his struggle with Bathsheba. He defines the danger of Saul and his army that surrounds. He defines the crushing isolation and grief he feels. He never had a problem defining the giant. But what David did that I think many of us lose out on, thankfulness, is telling the giant how big your God is. And in every one of those things, like one of the Psalms I was reading this week, David defines how the enemies of the Lord had surrounded him, and how they're saying that there is no real God. And David then turns around and begins to define, no, you are the glorious God, the one that is higher than, the most high, and begins to describe the spectacular power of the God that he served. He wasn't making light of the threat. He was just reminding the threat how big his God was. And I think that that's what thankfulness does. In that language, that language means that you can step into tough seasons and speak the type of words that I believe bring life. So, this was a good one. I don't think we're done, but we're excited about where we're heading next.
Yeah. I do just was thinking about as you were talking, if you're watching this and you were like, I have surrounded myself with friends who are bringing me further into the darkness. It doesn't necessarily, like, it may be that it's time to find new friends. It could also be that God is calling you to be the one to start changing the way that you speak to them, to start being the one who's modeling that shift in mindset. I have seen whole groups of people go from super critical to super grateful, and it took one person being convicted
Absolutely.
and changing that. So if the Lord will make it clear, if he's convicting you and like, no, you need to go find a whole new friend group, like there's only death here, do that. But it could be that he's actually convicting you to be the one to change the way that everyone interacts. Like, I don't know why when you were sharing that, just
It's good.
came on my heart.
It's good.
Okay. You referenced it a minute ago. Where are we headed?
Yeah. So actually in the writing this week, there's a moment where we talked about what peace looks like. And I think the phrasing that we use is like, often we think peace is soft, when the actual language surrounding that idea of God's peace that's found in Philippians 4 speaks to a guarding, almost a military action of guarding and surrounding a person's heart. And so this week is exploring this incredible peace of mind and peace of heart that he makes available to those who bring everything in prayer and thankfulness. And I can't wait. It's going to be exciting. I think this is kind of the culmination of the series. So those always are exciting.
Also, this Sunday, if you're watching this the week that it's dropped, Sunday night is our first The Wait. Yeah. So if you watched our special double overtime last week, we don't do that very often, but it was kind of fun. Then you already know about that. But if you didn't, would you just speak for a minute or two on what The Wait is? Yeah,
it's a night where we are pursuing after the weight of the Spirit of God. It's a night of course, worship and music, a night of prayer and kind of led petitions before the Lord. I think really we'll live this Philippians passage out a little bit at that night, but really the hope is that we would not only experience the presence of God, but that we'd leave with revelation and we'd hear from him clearly. So that's the point. We'd love to have you. It's right here at North Expression at 6:30. There is no child care. There will be a mom's wiggle giggle room. We are saying if you want to bring your kids, you're more than welcome to. But we're not watching them. That's on you. But it's gonna be a good time.
Yeah. So The Wait will be Sunday night. We'll also have our regular Sunday morning services at both Expressions at 9 and 11. We hope to see you there.